Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a different episode of Shut Up, Ya Kunal. This is a subject-centric episode. I've got two wonderful guests with me, Mr. Nishith Desai and Suril Desai. We will be discussing just cryptocurrencies today.
हद ये है मेरे भाई ये खुदाओं का घर तेरी दौलत ने बनाया तो हुए खुश अल्लाह भगवान तू उस दुनिया के खातिर जोड़े जा आना पैया the whole thing is that के भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपया
or Bitcoin.
The nation wants to know. Crypto.
ये किस भला का नाम है?
Blockchain.
Over 1.3 billion Indians.
बिटकॉइन लेने का तो
Let's get sentimental about national interest.
काय को इतना इमोशनल होता है इधर आ
We need to put a stop.
Cryptocurrency is an unregulated digital asset, not a legal tender, and subject to market risks. All investments are subjected to market fluctuation risks.
So the subject is cryptocurrencies. I'll just go and introduce my guest before. Mr. Nishith Desai, you have founded Nishith Desai and Associates in 1990. You have offices in Mumbai, in the Silicon Valley, in Singapore, New York, Munich also, New Delhi and Bangalore, spread all around. You specialize in international tax, corporate law and IP, if I'm not wrong, and you have been a key role player in the liberalization of our economy. You were dealing with a lot of laws at that time when that revolution happened in India. And today you are kind of been on the subject of cryptocurrencies and trying to regulate them for this government and the government before that also. There was some talk on crypto where you were involved. And we have also Suril Desai, who discovered crypto. I think you were the earlier people in India to discover crypto because you found out about crypto through the privatization, the private sort of non-state funded space missions. It's an interesting way to chance on cryptocurrency. And you've been a crypto enthusiast. You've also been a documentary filmmaker, and you work with the firm when it comes to blockchain and your expertise on that subject.
Am I right, Suril? You're wearing a Bitcoin cap out there? You're trying to do surrogate advertising on my show? Suril, are you trying to do surrogate advertising on my show by wearing that cap?
Am I?
I don't know. Maybe
mean,
you are. Maybe you are.
I can see your Twitter account, so yes, Twitter
maybe
ads
you are.
there too, right?
No, but maybe you are.
So maybe it is.
Yeah, so no, so that's what I'm saying here, right? No, 1 minute. Serious questions are now being asked, right? Serious.
ए शट अप या कुणाल
Shut up, ya Kunal.
अबे कुणाल चुप ना
Shut up, ya Kunal.
ए शट अप या कुणाल
Ya Kunal.
So I think we're good to start the episode, sir. My first question to you about nostalgia. How was it when you dealt with the liberalization of the economy and the laws that were being formed at that time? How was that experience?
I did my law in 1973.
Okay.
So practically I've seen it all, if I may say so, of course. No one can say you know everything, but you have seen a lot,
India was out of reserves by 1991 and had to borrow money from the IMF against the collateral of its gold reserves. Policy reforms that the Indian government put into place are collectively termed liberalization. Liberalization fueled economic growth in India to make it one of the world's largest economies.
India's development is of tremendous significance for the future of the entire developing world. To realize our development potential, we have to unshackle the human spirit of creativity, idealism, adventure and enterprise that our people possess in abundant measure.
So every time liberalization has happened, India has responded well. We have always moved an inch further. We have always done something better. Of course, often there is one step forward, two steps back. We have seen all kind of steps, whether it is retrospective amendment and we challenged it and, government then retracted on it. We have seen exchange controls in the stiffest possible manner. And in 1991, India liberalized. Suddenly, people were given new framework and people came to adjustment. We did a good job. So I believe that, every liberalization, if handled well, I think it will augur well for us, And as you rightly say, there's a law firm what we do is look to the future, because future is not, as they say, future may be uncertain,
Right.
but it's not unthinkable,
Right.
right? So you look. So what we started doing, and a philosophy actually came up, that every new technology, every new business model, every new social, political, economic development brings along with it a new strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issue. So what we do trend assessment and forecasting going forward 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, and see what new technology will come, what new social, political, economic developments will happen, and try to visualize what will be the future strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issue. They may not exactly happen the way you may visualize today. It's a fuzzy logic. But then at least you are able to get a lot of contours, and then when actual time comes, then we are able to deliver at the speed of thought.
Let's come to Suril now. You've been an enthusiast of the blockchain. You've been talking about it. You're one of the first movers to endorse the blockchain. What do you think is so special about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general that differentiates it from what is regularly in play?
So, when I came across the Bitcoin white paper the first time, I couldn't make sense of it. It was too complicated a subject for me to understand.
On Halloween 2008, someone using the name Satoshi Nakamoto posted on a cryptography mailing list. I've been working on a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. The post contained a link to a white paper in which Satoshi proposed a new type of payment system for the internet. It described a protocol that used peer-to-peer networking, proof of work, and public key cryptography. For years, computer scientists had been experimenting with these technologies to create digital money. But Satoshi discovered a way to combine them that had never been done before. In doing so, he invented Bitcoin. There are no records of Nakamoto's existence prior to the creation of Bitcoin. On his profile page, he claimed to be a 34-year-old man living in Japan.
And I was also quite aware of the time at which the Bitcoin white paper came out, which was October 31st, 2008, literally 1 month after the greatest financial collapse the world had ever seen.
It's no coincidence that the blockchain concept appeared shortly after the financial crash. In late 2008, a shadowy figure named Satoshi Nakamoto published a paper outlining how to get rid of the old trust system and replace it with a sort of trustless trust.
So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a revolutionary technology that enables a new way to send payments over the internet. You can think of it as an open accounting system where thousands of computers all over the world work together to track ownership of digital tokens called bitcoins. When you send someone bitcoins, the transaction is broadcast to the entire network. After it's verified, it's recorded in a public ledger called the blockchain. The blockchain contains a record of every Bitcoin transaction that has occurred since the system began, and it's shared and maintained on the network, so everyone keeps the books, so to speak. Most currencies are issued by a central authority that controls the money supply. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer system, so there is no central authority. Instead, Bitcoins are issued to users who help process transactions in the network. This is known as Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin miners are specialized computers that do the work required to verify and record transactions in the blockchain. As a reward for their work, the miners earn Bitcoins, and this is how new Bitcoins are released into circulation. The system is programmed so that only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist, and as time goes by, the mining reward decreases. The result is a predictable supply that's governed by scarcity, making Bitcoin somewhat like a digital gold. It's the first currency of the internet, and everyone is free to use it. With Bitcoin, you can send any amount of money to anyone, anywhere in the world, as easily as sending an email.
And this transformation, got me thinking a lot. There is something fundamentally different that's happening in our society, where we are, after almost 400 years of the banking system, we are having an alternative or a choice. No one was, and the idea was of choice, that you had a choice to either accept it or reject it, right? But you at least had a choice. And so because of that, it just became so attractive, and the freedoms it promised, because like it was the fact that it's censorship free, that means that it's debt free money, it has no debt associated with it. All these qualities really got me excited about the whole crypto and especially Bitcoin.
Why is the government and banks' monopoly on money creation seen as undesirable? In his white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto didn't express his opinion on this. But it does seem that he wanted bitcoins to appreciate rather than depreciate, unlike money. He programmed Bitcoin in such a way that there's a maximum of 21 million bitcoins to be mined. Bitcoins weren't meant to resemble money, but gold. In November 2013, this dream became reality when 1 Bitcoin was worth an ounce of gold.
Actually, that's what attracts me also, just the cap on the circulation.
Right.
So that means the value of one crypto may be going up and up and up, but 1 Bitcoin will remain 1 Bitcoin.
Right.
So you can divide it as much as you want
Right.
and spend it as per whatever the value it is, but you can't create Bitcoin out of thin air.
Right.
Like the banking system has been successful in creating money out of just thin air.
Right.
Our story begins in 1944. With World War II coming to an end, the Allied nations met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to create a new financial system which would stabilize the world once the war ended. With America poised to enter a golden age of prosperity, the US dollar was chosen as the world's reserve currency. Under this new system, countries agreed to fix their currencies to the US dollar, and the US dollar would be tied to gold at a price of $35 per ounce. This meant that countries around the world could trade their currencies for US dollars, which they could then exchange for gold. This created a system where all currencies were essentially backed by gold. To avoid the logistics of shipping physical gold across the world, when countries did exchange their currencies for gold, it was usually stored safely in the US. With all the new spending programs in the United States, other countries became concerned that the US was spending more money than it had gold reserves. They started exchanging their dollars for gold and demanded physical delivery, as they felt that there were more dollars being printed than the gold that backed it. To prevent this outflow of gold from American vaults, President Nixon called for an emergency suspension of the gold convertibility system.
The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
By removing the link between gold and the US dollar, President Nixon created a system where all currencies were backed by nothing. This is what is known as a fiat currency.
$5 trillion इस लक्ष्य को हासिल करने के लिए हमने अभी काम शुरू नहीं किया है.
I know the financial crash and how the people not trusting banks, etc., had impacted crypto and legitimizes year after year after year.
Right.
What do you think the pandemic has done for cryptocurrency?
So, I mean, a lot of people prior to the pandemic were probably thinking at some point buying some crypto or something like that. Right. But they didn't have the time to do the research and read up on it. And,
got it.
So a lot of people suddenly had this opportunity to look at videos and YouTube and, things like that and get information.
Yeah, I think the lockdown gave us some time for everybody to introspect and kind of learn about, what they've been doing and how can they be sharper with their money.
People, as Suril mentioned and you just mentioned, began to read more about it out of curiosity, they felt this is something liberating from the clutches and controls of government. Okay, because fiat currency has been controlled, manipulated at times, printed, and whatever it is. I'm not going to the details and politics of the whole thing. But people began to feel this is more liberating. Because it is more liberating, it will have a higher value in the future.
Queda aprobada la ley de Bitcoin.
Lawmakers in El Salvador broke into applause after voting to approve Bitcoin as legal tender on Wednesday, making the Central American country the first in the world to fully adopt the cryptocurrency.
Bitcoiners around the world, the time has come. We are ready.
So, but sir, and also Suril, I'd like to get you into this question that communist regimes and capitalist regimes look at crypto in very similar fashion,
right.
And never seen them so together on a subject.
Yeah, I mean, see, because if you look at it, if you look at communism and capitalism, right, these are the two economic systems or the political systems that we are grown up in, right? So communist is everything is owned by the state, and capitalism is, private. It's kind of like the polar opposite of it.
Right.
But it has a lot of state controls, right? And crypto is challenging both these systems.
Yeah.
It's saying that we don't need the state.
Correct.
And both of these systems are heavily reliant on the state.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that why do capitalist and communist systems have the similar reaction to crypto is because crypto is treating them the same way.
Exactly.
So that is why they feel like, oh, ye to...
Yeah, because crypto is kind of like, you can be a sovereign. You can have your self-sovereignty with crypto. Because you're not, it's not created by the state or for the state, it's created for the people.
Many of the early Bitcoin enthusiasts were libertarians who saw Bitcoin as the ultimate remedy for state intervention. This was also what attracted Roger Ver to Bitcoin. In his early 20s, he was a candidate for the Libertarian Party in California.
Money creation by the state is sort of connected to state aggression for you, right?
In my line of thinking is if you or I create counterfeit euros or print euros or dollars or yen, we would go to jail for counterfeiting because it's destructive to the economy. By counterfeiting dollars, it's stealing from everybody else in the economy that has money. When governments do the exact same thing, it has the exact same negative effects. The only difference is they call it fancy names like quantitative easing or economic stimulus, but it's destructive for the exact same reasons. My hobby growing up and in high school and since has been studying economics. And the more you study economics, the more you realize that all these government interventions in the economy prevent the world from becoming as wealthy and prosperous as it otherwise would become. And suddenly now we have this tool that separates money from state. Like everybody today thinks that separating church and state, yeah, of course they should be separated. But a couple hundred years ago, it was, heresy to say that church and state should be separated. And today it sounds maybe a little bit crazy to say that money and state should be separate. But I think in another decade or two, people are going to think, oh, what the heck were we thinking, letting governments be in charge of money? That caused so many problems and so many misallocations of resources around the world. Of course, Bitcoin is better.
Okay.
See, we've been seeing at some point in time, 30, 40 years' time, there'll be more drive towards personal sovereignty from the state sovereignty. Okay. We'll see more drive from what is called concept of state to the concept of nation. State is a concept that is linked to the land, let us say, okay, a particular territory. Nation is language, culture. That actually makes it. So many times it was said, Facebook is the third largest nation in the world. Why? Because similar culture, similar thing. So in the future, new nations will be built around, nation states will be built around culture and food and all those kind of things. So Bangalore and Silicon Valley might make one nation. Right. Mumbai and Washington may have another one and stuff like that. Because, when Sandy happened, how many times people sent out messages to the US friends, oh, what's going on? But when there is a cyclone in Bihar or somewhere else, how many times even you think what is happening to them?
Yeah.
We are not even emotionally connected.
Hardik did something different. He went down on one knee and raised his hand in a power salute. It was the first time BLM featured in the Indian Premier League. And I will tell you why. There are some serious, fundamental problems with reservation in India. Number one, if reservation is about creating a level playing field, why do we need it after a certain point? Reservation has given birth to a new kind of structural crisis. Certain seats have become untouchable.
हिपोक्रेसी की भी सीमा होती है.
Anyway, I'm just not going into that another.
But I mean, whenever I see somebody so motivated for Chelsea's football team and not our kabaddi team that Abhishek Bachchan owns, I feel something like that.
Funds received.
This community is switching to what they think is a better monetary system. A system in which banks are no longer needed because payments could be made directly from one person to another.
In a system of debt, one of the two parties is always the slave. And that is the architecture of money we live in. That is the architecture of money we use in our civilization. An architecture of money where you have no control. An architecture of money where every interaction is mediated by a third party that has absolute control over that money. Bitcoin is fundamentally different because in Bitcoin, you don't owe anyone anything and no one owes you anything. It is not a system based on debt. It is a system based on ownership. And no one can censor it, no one can seize it, no one can freeze it. And what they will tell you is that they're worried. They're very worried. They're worried that criminals will use Bitcoin. But the truth is that they're far more terrified than all of the rest of us will. Thank you.
Like in the blockchain space and in the crypto space, you think that we as a country have moved as fast, not in terms of the government or regulatory bodies, but as consumers, do you think we as a country are at par with the West and what people are doing there?
I mean, according to some reports, I don't know what the accuracy of the reporting is, but according to some reports, India is the highest number of crypto wallets and holders of cryptocurrency are in India at the moment. Taking that into consideration, I mean, it has really grown quite, Bitcoin has been around for 13 years now, so to be the topmost country to have the largest amount of crypto is quite a feat, and especially considering the fact that India is not amongst the richest of the rich nations, and that people somehow found something in crypto, some value, and as a result, they ended up investing or, building on the tech. So I do feel that India has done pretty well, and
in consuming the currency.
In consuming it. And also as far as developing and all goes, there is India has some of the best programmers in the world, and a lot of them are working on so many crypto projects and blockchain projects, and this industry has evolved, In fact, two of the unicorns of India are in the crypto business, and which tells you something, $1 billion companies coming from the crypto itself. And that just tells you that the receptiveness of this technology is so high in India that India can be positioned to be a world leader in this,
Yeah, especially with China not making their policy clear on crypto, and it seems like it's not always going to be banned there.
The use of Bitcoin is particularly vital in the developing world, where billions of people are without basic banking services.
People who see the price all the time, especially in advanced societies, they focus more on the price and they think that Bitcoin is an investment solely and that it goes up and down like a stock based on news and expectations. But the fact is, probably there's more people in these kind of third economies. They don't own a lot, but they own it, and they own it because they need it. Not because they expect to get rich or hope to get rich, because they need to protect themselves against both destroyed fiat currencies and against capital controls. So when people think of it as an investment, they have to realize that the reason that Bitcoin's so exciting is because it's a future money for the world, not because it's something that could become a great investment. It just so happens to be that both can be accomplished at the same time.
One question I had was that the volatile nature of cryptocurrencies in general, that seems to be for some, for some people from the conservative economic point, they feel that if something can go up so fast and down so fast, this sort of volatile nature, they don't see a steady sort of growth in it, and hence they are reluctant to enter the market. And these are coming from the conservative economic school. So what would you like to tell them about? What's your view on that, basically, the volatile nature of cryptocurrencies?
See, the volatility is there in all markets, right? Now, if you look at the rate at which the inflation is going about, right? The price of goods and services are just going up and up and up. And then you have countries like United States printing trillions of dollars, just to safeguard their economies. And then you're seeing, like if you look at, if you saw the price of Moderna pharmaceuticals in Jan of 2020, it was at about $19. And today suddenly it's at $329, right? And volatility is a part of every economy. They are all faced with certain political movements and geopolitical movements and change in mindsets of people and things like that.
Recently, Jamie Dimon, chairman and CEO of JP Morgan Chase, America's largest bank, was quoted calling Bitcoin a fraud.
Why is Bitcoin a fraud? Here's the reason. Governments, the first thing they do is form a currency. They like to control the currency. They control it through a central bank. They also like to know who has it, where it is, where it's going. Wait until someone gets hurt. Wait until it's used for illicit purposes, which it is somewhat used for illicit purposes. They close it down.
You got people like Jamie Dimon, a serious guy, calling it a fraud.
Calling it fraud? You mean like there was hundreds of billions of dollars of securities that Jamie Dimon sold the public a decade ago called mortgage-backed securities? He's calling Bitcoin a fraud? Is that going to go to zero like his securities that he sold the public?
First with respect to asking a banker about whether they like Bitcoin or not, that's kind of like asking a king, do you like democracy? It's just so thoroughly frustrating and insulting when people who know very little about what we do watch an up-and-coming technology and have the audacity to call us all criminals. We're not the criminals here. The whole damn reason this ecosystem exists is because they're the criminals. And it doesn't really matter at this point what he thinks. The genie's out of the bottle. Somebody in this room or somebody at this conference or somebody around the world is going to solve the problem of decentralized lending and value-stable currencies and decentralized exchange. And within 5 to 10 years, banks will become less and less relevant, just like landline telephones are becoming less and less relevant. And we're going to wake up one day and we're going to be in charge of our own money.
Yeah, that's actually the view I also come from, because it's not about crypto in itself, but I've been reading a lot about blockchain as a technology that can improve a lot of other industries.
Right.
You've been an enthusiast on blockchain. What do you think it can do to other industries in terms of just making them better in terms of operations?
So blockchain is, what is a blockchain, right? That would be the question before I can go into what it can do. So blockchain is nothing but a decentralized ledger, right? And
it works like this. A block is simply a chunk of information, a record of something, like how much money you have. When it comes to money, that record is called a ledger. Let's say you have 4 coins. If something happens to change that record or ledger, maybe you buy something that costs 1 coin. A new block is formed and linked to the first one, and the first one is locked, and so on and so forth. as you earn or spend more coins. The blocks can't be opened, and the links can't be broken, because they're codes that are incredibly difficult to break. So that keeps the information safe, trustworthy, you might say.
It's not as glamorous as, it's just a set of data stored on different computers. Instead of one single computer storing all the data, you spread it across different computers so that it becomes difficult to hack. And this can have applications in everywhere from healthcare. You can have it, it can be used in supply chain management. It can be used for governance, land records. It can be used, you can actually conduct elections over the blockchain, which is something, which actually is the ultimate thing you can do with the blockchain.
Basically, the EVM system can be a blockchain system, which is an open ledger and open computing where everybody can eventually see.
Exactly. So each vote is verifiable, and it can, so that the counting and everything is very...
Where the identity of the person is not revealed, but his vote is revealed.
Exactly.
And that is for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that won't ever happen in India. Just let's not.
Never say never, James Bond saying no once. So...
So you've seen everything. Do you see this happening?
Right? I've seen the same person who said, ban it. Now he says you regulate. So never say never, right?
Correct. But that would be the ultimate dream, right? To do the counting of the voting.
No, I think it would happen. It would happen.
It would happen through blockchain.
Because the way in which system is currently going, technology is going to bring a lot more transparency, authenticity.
Yeah.
So, in fact, today is not the time for discussion, but we love to discuss from democracy to netocracy.
Yeah.
In 30 years' time, we want to see that,
Sir, we have all the time to discuss.
No, don't touch that subject. I think too sensitive for you, I know. And the idea is that I think the whole parliament will have to go in the cloud.
Correct.
And voting system will have to be on the cloud and all this blockchain. So there is no duplication of vote, there is authenticity. And the technology already exists, for example, that if you hold phone in your hand, you can figure out whether somebody is under stress. Is somebody around you? Oh, okay, somebody's putting gun on you, somebody is threatening you, somebody is doing this, that, etc. So there are enough security systems which phone can tell, and if you vote, the blockchain can help you. So again, that's a different subject.
But it is. It's a subject which is important because everybody who thinks maybe EVM is not the right way forward has been asking people to take one step back and go to paper ballots while not exploring the idea of blockchain.
Right.
And that is what we have to. If you have to present alternatives to a current system, why just one which is going back? Why not one which is taking us forward?
Traditional software applications often rely on central authorities to store data and perform operations on that data. This requires trust in the central authority. DAPPS can make use of smart contracts on the Ethereum network to achieve decentralization. Smart contracts can store data. The Ethereum network enforces that all operations on the data happen according to the smart contract code. In other words, the data maintains its integrity without a central trusted party. In order to support the Ethereum network, developers need the cryptocurrency Ether to create and run applications. Ether is used to pay for transaction fees and computational services. Users can send Ether to other users, and developers can write smart contracts that receive, hold, and send Ether. Ether comes into existence by the validation of transactions on the Ethereum platform through a process called mining. Those performing this validation are referred to as miners. When miners successfully verify a group of transactions, they are awarded Ether. Miners follow a set of cryptographic rules which keep the network stable, safe, and secure. Ether transactions are recorded and verified on a digital public ledger called blockchain.
No. Absolute rubbish. Point to make is, please do not make the cardinal error of trying to, shoot over blockchain's shoulder to justify crypto. That's all.
तुमसे ना हो पाएगा. हमें तुम्हारे लक्षण बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं लग रहे, तुमसे ना हो पाएगा.
I may add here that I'm equally proud of being a Hindu College, Delhi University graduate. That's where I did most of my learning from.
Do you think, sir, that in our current legal framework, there are laws that can be applied to cryptocurrency and it's not as difficult as it is seeming in terms of to get regulations on board?
See, laws applicable to currency in crypto is different from the people who play with the currency. Okay, those who are traders, for example, exchange people, or those who, use them. Okay, no, for them, there are some laws that are already there. Okay, for example, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, to some extent it does apply, but now they have to make some amendment into the whole thing. Suspicious trading activities as transaction trading activities, again, that is what is causing. What is called Ponzi schemes, right? If you try to create a scheme out of it, okay, a mutual fund or whatever it is, then there are different laws applicable to different activities. So it is, and that is what also we are saying, that if anything has to be regulated, you cannot control technology, but you can control people who play with the technology and harm other people. That's all.
Correct. So people who are misusing the blockchain, they need stricter laws. People who believe in the blockchain and want to make an alternative to the current banking system, they just need to be regulated and, with a polite hand instead of just banning things.
Right.
You know what? LSD is cool. Let's supply LSD. Let's make it freely available. People are responsible. They'll decide how much LSD to use. Let's actually supply. Let's subsidize LSD. Right? And then, you know what? We are open to regulation. Regulate us. I may add here that I'm equally proud of being a Hindu College, Delhi University graduate.